This is a Mahindra pickup. Now, if you've been watching, you've probably seen me out mucking around on the beach in one of these, in this one actually. And if you're living anywhere near my place or you've been near one of the trips we've been on in the last 6 months, you would have noticed that the camera car is this one, a Mahindra pickup. I honestly think, as possibly the oldest four-wheel drive journo in the country, that I want to get a jump on everyone to some degree and let you know what I think we're on the verge of. And that is a little bit of a revolution right across the board. Now, why is that? Well, it's fairly simple. To begin with, this thing is an awesome vehicle. It really is. I've noticed the Queensland Parks and Wildlife Service has just got a bunch of them to test, you know. There's a lot of things happening here, guys. A lot of other people with vested interests are going, we're going to stay away from that. We don't really know what that is. But I knew the minute the big dealers got involved, the minute QPWS got involved, the minute the rumours from the outback stations started coming in. Do you know what? We got something here the jackaroos can't kill. It's doing really well. When I heard that Luke Hawkins, the owner of the West Point network, was going to take on a Mahindra dealership, it sort of twigged in with a whole jigsaw of little bits and pieces I'd been picking up around the place. Everything from the guy at the Birdsville Museum clocking up this amazing run in his Mahindra, to my mates down at the Killarney pub getting a Mahindra and a tray back to cart great big loads of grog and all sorts of other things, to people all over the country making little whispers about this Mahindra thing. Now, Mahindras have been in Australia for a long time. I can remember probably 10 years ago going to a Mahindra dealership in Dungog to find some bits for my Toyota. And I guess what's changed has been the Mahindra itself, you know. It used to be a very agricultural vehicle. It essentially used the same motor as the Mahindra tractors. Now, Mahindra, an Indian company, is the world's largest seller of tractors. Did you hear me right? I hope you did. What does that tell you? Well, it tells you they got something going for them, because as everybody knows, tractors have to be torquey, they have to be fuel efficient, they have to be good, heavy steel. And this is kind of where the Mahindra story starts, okay? My interest in this, when I heard that West Point was taking on Mahindra, I thought, well, there's my chance to grab one, have a bit of a play. And I thought, the one thing that's missing in our current market here in Australia is an industrial version of a four-wheel drive. Sure, we have the big 70 series Toyotas, but that's about it. And everything else after that has been getting softer and softer and softer. So along comes this thing that's based on a tractor. It's got to be something worth looking at, hasn't it? So when you dive in to the Mahindra, the first thing you notice is that it's got a full ladder chassis. This is a super strong chassis. This is the sort of chassis that you know straight away you could probably stick a bus full of Indians on the back if you had to. It's actually got a 1-ton payload, which is a really good load for a ute or a trayback or something like that. When you get underneath and have a look, you see the size of the leaf springs. You see the way the chassis is built. This is a really good base for an off-road vehicle, especially one that's going to go a little bit harder and tougher and for a longer duration. Think outback roads, things like that. Now, when you look underneath, this is the thing that I keep coming back to. What have we got up the back here? This is an Eaton diff with a automatic lock-up system, okay? So you have an Eaton locking differential coming as standard in a Mahindra. Why? Because it is just about the best thing on earth. To think about it, straight away, go back to their tractor heritage. You've never seen a tractor that didn't have some form of diff lock. They've got to have it. So when they built utes, of course they went, oh, we've got to put a diff lock in. They went and got the best one they could. Just like the transfer case, it's a Borg Warner unit. We're not mucking around here. This is a serious transfer case. The gearing is fantastic. This particular truck's a 6-speed manual. I absolutely love it. it gives you such a wide range of gears in high and low range that it pretty much covers every situation. Now, the motor, 2.2 litres, 4-cylinder, turbo diesel, common rail, but it starts with a block that comes from a tractor. And there's a whole lot of other common components in there, but not the least being the mindset of the engineers who designed this thing. None of these flimsy little cam belts that you've got to change every 100,000 Ks, and if they go wrong, ping, 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 there goes your valve train. None of that stuff. We're talking about a dual link chain, a proper dual chain to drive the camshafts. You know what that means? That means industrial engine life potential straight away. I'm not going to guarantee it, but I have talked to people who've had 300, 400,000 Ks, haven't done a thing. I have looked at this vehicle all the way round. I just love the way it's constructed. Once I started trying it out, I thought, wow, I'm liking this. One of the things I noticed almost straight up was that the doors have got that same vacuum kaplunk you used to get out of Volkswagens in the day, like we're talking 40 years ago, my day here, and that you still get out of some Toyotas, especially the 100 series. A good 100 series has got that kind of vacuum clingy feel. What does that tell you? Oh, the Prado is probably the best dust sealed vehicle ever in the world. I'm not going to say too much about the late model ones, but certainly the 10 years ago when they had the super strong body. Why does the Mahindra have that kind of a feel? Well, first of all, let's go back to that tractor philosophy again. We're talking about a vehicle that's pretty much all steel. There's some fiberglass bits and pieces, the snorkel and, you know, the wheel trims and stuff like that, but this is a really strong steel body. That gives it the structural strength that you add some really good seals and you get that sound, which is essentially the sound of the dust staying where it should on the outside of the vehicle. I've noticed already, just mucking around, and you know, already here we've done quite a few thousand Ks actually, on a corrugated road, the dash isn't doing the shutter shake thing. It just stays there. It's beautiful. You know what that tells me? That tells me longevity, because almost every other vehicle I've tested the last few years, I can get it to shutter if I hit it hard enough. What else are we talking about here? One of the first things I noticed was just driving around town, it's got quite a fat turning circle. Now, what does that tell you? Well, I'll tell you what it tells me. It tells me that they were trying to protect the CVs, the same way you do in a tractor, in a four-wheel drive machine, because CVs brake exponentially depending on how far they're turned, okay? And if you put pressure on something that's cranked right over to one side, that's when it brakes. That's when it gets maximum wear. You restrict that to reasonable and then make the CV as solid as these ones, you're talking about something that's not going to break. One of the other tractor philosophies, I keep saying tractor, don't think it's noisy or anything else, it's one of the quietest things around to travel in, but is the fact that a tractor makes lovely, soft, gentle torque. Now that's one of the reasons why you see tractors that are 50, 60 years old still going, because they haven't worn out the mechanicals. But at the end of the day, you're talking a market where other people are squeezing a third to a half to even more, again, torque and power out of small capacity diesel motors. Now, anyone who's ever hotted anything up at all, and I know this from the first Combat Norton I owned, knows there's a direct relationship between power production and braking things. And when you combine the solidness here of the drivetrain, the chassis, and all the body, all the components, and you add a motor that is beautiful to drive. I mean, I really enjoy it, but then I spent over 750,000 Ks driving a little 4-cylinder turbo diesel Land Cruiser around. Gentle power is how you don't break things. It also achieves insane miles to the gallon, okay? It said to me the other day I was getting nearly 30 kilometres to the litre. At the end of the day, the criticisms I've heard about this car, stuff like, oh gee, it's ugly. Well, that's because you're used to your space rocket styled new Japanesey dual cab or something. Guess what? That is built to look good. That's part of the plan, you know. Press those curves into the panels, give it those swoopy windows, make it look like a Dodge Ram, way bigger than it should be, or whatever. With this one, they just started out with practical. They went, okay, you know, how big does the bonnet have to be to hide 2.2 litres and the stuff we're going to shove under there? Let's do that. And then, oh, it's a four-wheel drive. We better make it so people can see out of it. So it's got a tall cab. The cab, by the way, will take a 6'3" guy with a big hat on. I know that because my mate Matt Hayden, Matt the Bat, he's 6'3", wears a big hat. He's got plenty of room in his. He loves it. The back seat is higher than the front seat. All right? Do you know what that means? It means the cab's got to be higher again, means it's got to have extra room behind it, means you've got fantastic view and leg room for your rear seat passengers. If you've got big teenage kids like I have, well, actually they're more than teenagers now, they all fit in there and they can see. There's lots of room. The cabin is built for practicality, more like a Defender or a troop carrier or something like that. It's not built to look pretty. And I guess that's one of the things that really turned me on about the Mahindra. It's one of the rare vehicles you get in, you go, to start with maybe a little bit, you know, not too sure about this, the gears feel good, the clutch feels good, I'm enjoying this. And it grows on you, because that's what's been happening with me. Now, I need to get to the full end of this story, you know. Lots of outback driving, lots more camera work, lots of severe off-roading to try out the awesome approach angle. There's a whole lot of driving and filming going to go into this before we reach our end conclusion. But if you're starting to think that Ruthie reckons there's a big place for the Mahindra in the Aussie market, it's because I do. It's because you can buy two of these for the price of a 70 series and they will do pretty much the same job. It's just they'll do it for roughly a third of the running costs. That's a whole lot better for the environment. It's a whole lot better for everybody. I've said heaps about it already. I haven't knocked it. That's because I haven't really found anything to knock yet. Stay tuned, guys. We've got a few more clips coming out about this over quite a bit of time, and we'll see where the Mahindra sits in the market and, in my estimation, in 6 months to a year. Be prepared for a surprise.